All right, so let's take a look at Audacity. This is a free audio editing and recording software on PC, and we're gonna go up to let's take a look at the interface first. We have our timeline here. It's empty right now. We're not gonna have any kind of multi-track slash waveform editing different modes like we did in Audition. Just this one timeline. If we drag and drop sound into it, we can do that in this program as well, and it's gonna make different tracks on top of each other. Whenever we record, it's going to be a brand new track. I don't think we can go back and record on the same track, so there's no telling a track to record. You hit record, it's going to record to a new track. Up here we have our record, play, pause, our playback buttons. We have our meters here. We have our cursor options. We have a select option. We have the envelope filter tool, which is a kind of way to fade audio in and out. If we were to grab and move things up and down, we can change the sort of volume or gain for the entire track. Or if we were to click and make little dots, we can stretch the different dots. So we're like, okay, we want it to get quieter here, and then we want it to get loud again here, so we got to make some dots and stretch it back up, and then we want it to get quiet on its way back down to here, right? So this would mean that if we play this back, we hear it get quieter and louder. Let's make this more dramatic and listen back to it so you can hear that. Make sure we have the select tool. So we move the cursor, hit spacebar to play. So we can see that our envelope filter makes changes to the volume. That's what this button does here. The envelope tool, rather. We've got our microphone tool. We've got this tool, which I believe is used to move things around here. So, different cursor options. Again, we got to make sure our audio interface is set up. This is the most confusing part, I think. Edit, preferences, audio, I/O, playback. That's going to be the out. That's your speakers here, okay? And then you're recording your line in. Your device is going to be the same thing for me, Scarlett, TI2 USB. That's what my audio interface is called, okay? Click OK, and now if we click on this little drop down next to the microphone, we do monitor input. We can see I'm talking, the microphone can hear me, we've got a nice signal. It's sort of hard to see. I think this meter is a little small. What I like to do is I like to go to view, float meter toolbar, and for some reason it wasn't working for me like this earlier. So if I hit record, it'll start recording a session. It'll start it right where I have the timeline. It looks like I'm talking into your mic. Let me talk into the mic that I have set up to record. You see I get a much better signal when I talk into that microphone, even though you probably can't hear me as well, and then I'll stop. It'll stop recording. So now that I've done that, let me float the meter toolbar. I don't know why. Again, this is a freeware, so you kind of get what you pay for, but I like taking this meter tool and really stretching it out. And we want to do monitor input, and now I got a better kind of view of what I'm going for. So we'll just need to know that the red starts right about here, the yellow kind of starts right around here. We want to get it in this mid-range, I'd say above 18 or so, not too close to 6 or 3. Okay, so we're all set up. We've got a signal. If we wanted to record, and we're going to move our timeline back, right? We're going to move our cursor all the way back here, so when we start recording, it starts recording from there. We're going to hit record. Remember, we want a few moments of silence at the beginning of our session. And then we can start recording. Welcome to another episode of Was This Always Weird, a podcast where we've watched a movie and we're getting together to talk about whether or not this movie was always weird. Alright, so let's say that's what we wanted to record. Cool, we'll hit stop. We want to edit it in a similar way. We can, if we want to get rid of this toolbar, if it's on our way, we can go to View, Dock, Meter Toolbar. That'll put it back up here. Let's say we want to remove this take. We didn't like this take, but we did like this second take. We've taken our music and we've made it all wacky, so we could probably undo. Well, we can't really undo back here because we did that early on, so I think the best thing to do is just going to be to come in here, grab the intro track, drop it in, cool, and now we got it fresh again. So that means that we're not necessarily making the same kind of changes to the original audio as we were in Adobe, but it would still be a good practice to save often. Okay, so we've recorded. That's a basic overview of how to record. We can move things along our timeline. So we've got, down here we have our music. And here we have our talking. So first, let's trim our talking. I believe we have a couple of different options. We can do this. We can select what we want, and we have a button here that says, I believe it's trim outside selection. If we do that, bam, it's going to only keep what we selected. We can edit, undo. If we hit this one, it's going to trim inside the selection. So we would select what we don't want if we want to do it that way. So let's clean it up like that. All right. Let's move this about to where we want it. We can do edit, deselect. I guess we'll click to deselect. Okay. This is going to be where our cursor starts. So let's click this button. This will move our cursor all the way back to the beginning. Let's hit play. All right, so it's going to start our music. And eventually when it gets to the talking, it's going to come in. Welcome to another episode of Was This Always Weird, a podcast where we watched a movie and we're getting together to talk about whether or not this movie was always weird. Cool, there we go. All right, so we've got our file laid out. It would continue to go. If this wasn't already faded out, we could select it. We get our select tool. We highlight the part that we want to apply the fade in or fade out effect to, and in Audacity it's an effect. We go up here to effect. We go down to fade in. So let's say we wanted that music to fade in. We did that. Again, we click our back to the beginning tool and hit play. And now we can hear that music fades in, and we can see that it applied that fade in effect there. So the last quick thing I want to go over is just post-processing. In Audacity, we can do the same things. We want to make sure that we select the part that we want to do the effect to. We've already deleted our noise, so we probably wanted to try and do our noise reduction before we did that. I don't know. Yeah, I don't really know how we can get back more. Nope. So we may want to just like sample some room noise here. So we have it. We have the mic still set up. So I would say that'd be our best bet if we didn't record room noise. Let's just record a little quiet room noise real quick. Okay, cool. So now, if we want to apply a hard limiter to this or noise reduction, let's start with noise reduction. We'll select, first we have to select a noise sample. We go up to effect, we go down to noise removal, and it tells us select a few seconds of just noise, so Audacity knows what to filter out. Then click get noise profile. We do that, and it's going to build it from the silence here. Now we want to select what we want to apply the noise filter to, the noise removal to, so we go effect, noise removal. We can preview. Welcome to another episode of Was This Always Weird, a podcast where we watch. And it'll give us play it a little bit, make sure it doesn't sound too robotic. Let's turn it down a little just to be safe, right? Cool. And let's go. Remove noise, and bam, it applied the effect. If we want to do a hard limiter, same thing, effect. We find it's all the way at the bottom, hard limiter. It's going to be harder to tell what. Let's cancel this for a second. So it's going to be harder to tell if you right click here, we can zoom in or we can stretch it. If we left click, we can zoom back out. It's going to be hard to see the waveforms. It's going to be hard to see the decibel level because it doesn't explain it in the same way. If we go to hard limiter, as it did in Adobe, it would say -3, and that's where you would cut it right here. This kind of counts backwards to the middle. It's sort of hard to tell what you're doing. So here's what I like to do. I like to just trial and error, we actually zoomed in on this more. That's about what our original looked like. So let's go effect, hard limiter. We can move our dB limit slider over if we want. Let's try 15. Let's see what that does. Okay, that cuts off. That's about where, pretty close to the top, but we don't want to cut off too much, especially in Audacity. It's going to sound strange. So let's try it again. Effect, hard limiter. Let's maybe take it down to -12. Cool. Okay, sure. That just trims off the peaks. If you saw it, if you play that back, you'll see just the tips of these move. That's cool. That works for us. So we got the hard limiter. Cool. We've got our noise reduction applied. Compression is not. It doesn't really work as well in Audacity. I haven't. You can do it. Effect, compressor. It just doesn't work the same. in terms of it basically has the same effect. Loud parts are going to be quieter, quiet parts are going to be a little louder. Your best bet if you're recording in Audacity is to get good levels going in. You could select little parts and turn the volume up on little parts, like this part's a little quiet. If it was a longer conversational piece, I'm going to turn it up. I would select it, effect, amplify, and then I can tell it how much I want to turn the volume up by, and it'll turn it up for me. But I actually just want to normalize, I think, all of this. I think it's pretty general across the top. Looks good, pretty even. So let's just go to Effects, Normalize. So we have our settings here. Remove any DC offset, center on 0 vertically. Not entirely sure what that means. I do want to normalize the max amplitude to -3 dB. I don't know. Yeah. I'm just going to leave it checked. Okay, cool. So we saw that makes it louder. And now when we listen back, we should have a louder signal. Welcome to another episode of Was This Always Weird, a podcast where I'm sorry, my speakers are turned up pretty loud. It sounds pretty crappy. And actually, you know what? I don't really like the normalize. I think it made it too loud. So instead of normalizing, I'm going to kind of manually turn the volume up. I can pick how much do I want to turn it up. Let's say 10 dB. Let's try it. Let's see what that does. Oh, nope. That looks like it's going to be way too loud. Undo, amplify, effect. Let's try it again. Let's try 5 dB. How about that? Hey, that looks good. And now let's listen. Cool. Let me turn down my speakers just a scooch. Well, no, let's play it back. Let's hear it. Welcome to another episode of Was This Always Weird, a podcast where we watched a movie and we're getting together to talk about whether or not this movie was always... So it's louder, but applying that hard limiter gave us some sort of distorted parts where it cut it out. So I would say you really want to be careful with that hard limiter. I would maybe just use it to remove big, tall, rogue, really high peaks if you need to, and just deal with the clipping sound that you get from that. But again, this is part of why I think it's worth the money to pay for Adobe Audition, that $20 a month. If you can swing it, if you can split it, I think it's worthwhile. But you can do it in here. If I wasn't having to make these edits, it would sound better if I was just turning it up. I think it's the hard limiter that really made it sound bad. But when I'm done and I'm ready, I want to save, and then I can export as MP3. I can export as WAV, export as MP3. It tells me your tracks will be mixed down to 2 stereo channels. It's saying everything left to right is it's gonna mix down. You can pick where you want to save and save it, and that's it. That's how you record it in Audacity. Audacity, and a little bit of post-processing, the sort of challenges you might run into there. So again, same as last time. If you have questions, feel free to let me know. Thanks.